Hello, ni hao, xin dao, or whatever else your salutation of choice may be, from out here by Suzhou Creek in Shanghai, China. I have some big, perhaps exciting, certainly scary news that I wanted to share today, and I thought it would be best to do it outside, on the run, where it feels more natural. I'm not entirely sure just how to kick this one off, so forgive me for rambling, but I was originally planning on starting this vlog with a guided tour of my run into work. I had to shelve that idea because my first attempt was so full of hiccups that I couldn't reasonably work through them, but I was always hoping on coming back to that at a later date. While today might not be as late a date as I had originally envisioned, I'm doing it now because this may well be the last opportunity I ever get. Not to run into work in general, but to run into this work along this route. This Tuesday, a couple of days after we got back from Vietnam, my boss pulled me into a meeting room and told me I was being made redundant. Now, this wasn't entirely unexpected, and while on the face of it, it might sound pretty terrible, it's kind of what we were hoping for. See, ever since having Felix, it's kind of been our plan to eventually up sticks and relocate to Vietnam. There are a few benefits to doing this, not least because that way we'll have a family support network who can help out in a pinch. Add to this the fact that things at work have been a bit up in the air for the past few months, with the company, or at least the department, obviously laying the foundations for mass layoffs, plus a big move to new offices on the horizon. And it became pretty obvious to us that our time in China may well be coming to a close. Alright, that's the traffic lights and commuter hordes behind us. Time to get back to business. We maybe didn't expect things to happen quite this quickly, but we were always going to be leaving either at the end of this year or the beginning of next. In fact, that was the main catalyst that spurred me on to start this vlog now. Being laid off now instead of quitting in a few months' time means I'll at least get some redundancy pay that could go a long way to providing stability while we navigate the move to Vietnam. For that reason, this is probably the best thing that could have happened, although it would have been nice to have had more than a week's notice. Always the chance you'll get interrupted by one of those down here. There are a couple of other pluses that come from this. For instance, I now get to spend the next month or two at home with Felix, which means I'll be able to take him out to the park more often, and he'll get to be outside and run around and hopefully interact with more kids his own age, which I think he really would benefit from. At the moment, he's still viewed as being a little bit too young to start nursery here in China. The other obvious benefit that comes from this is that now I'll have more time to plan, record, and edit these videos. I'm still a bit lost in this whole process, and mapping things out in my mind as to how they're going to look and how I need to plan them out is still a skill I haven't really been able to develop. Anyway, that's about it in terms of this big news that I have to share. Now let's just sit back and enjoy the rest of my run to work. Alright, it's been a little while since I recorded the first part of this video, as I'm sure you can tell from all the facial growth. I was a little busy with life admin and I've had a pretty nasty cold, so I've been putting it off. I've already had my last day at work and I'm now jobless. I've mostly just been pottering around, running and taking Felix to the park. As I said in the first part of this video, being laid off isn't the end of the world. It just means our plans have been set in motion a little earlier than we expected. Which is exciting, but also, honestly, it's pretty scary. It might sound weird for a Brit in China to say that moving to a new country terrifies me, but I moved here when I was almost fresh out of uni. Young, stupid, and with no real responsibilities. And sure, I may still be a bit of a moron at times, but everything else has changed. I've spent the best part of a decade and a half here. This is home. I speak the language, at least well enough to work as a translator. I have friends and acquaintances. I have valuable experience. I understand how things work. Vietnam is a completely different situation. I barely speak the language well enough to order food. My professional skills don't really transfer, and everything is alien to me. Like, how am I supposed to survive without WeChat? Plus, I'm old now. I have a family to provide for. I have to think about things like medical insurance and pensions. I didn't really have the wherewithal to worry about stuff like this when I was in my 20s. So yeah, moving is scary, and I'm gonna miss this place. A lot. I'm gonna miss the food. Obviously not Shanghai food or Fujian food, my taste buds have needs. But I'm gonna miss the rest. I basically came here for a post-uni gap year like 14 years ago, and ended up spending almost my entire adult life here. So far. For me, leaving here now really is terrifying. And not just because I'm worried about finding a new job. There's just so many uncertainties. But hey, this is where we are right now. And whatever happens, happens. Hopefully for the best. So I'm just going to enjoy my last few months in China, and hopefully there are good things waiting for us when we leave. And as I've only got a few more chances to run my old faithful Sunday route, I thought I'd take the camera along for another guided tour.